The Adam Project, now streaming on Netflix, is from Sean Levy, director of Free Guy, working once again with star Ryan Reynolds. In this one, Reynolds plays a man from the future who goes back in time to save his wife, but something goes wrong and he meets himself as a kid, and that kid ends up getting dragged into this too. It's told mostly from the perspective of the kid and acts as a homage to Spielberg-type kids movies of the 80s, and also as child wish fulfillment, basically just showing an ordinary kid that he'll grow up to be Ryan Reynolds and putting him on a cool adventure. Dude, that guy just died! Anyway, this is kind of a step down from Free Guy, but it's still pretty good. It has an interesting, if somewhat predictable, story. Ryan Reynolds is pretty funny, even if he's a little more subdued than other previous roles, but he's basically still playing Ryan Reynolds, at his most generic. None of the over-the-top nature of Deadpool, none of the innocence of Free Guy. I guess maybe he could have stood out a little more, but he's still doing what he does best. And the kid isn't too bad at playing a younger version of him. You'd think it wouldn't be great to see a kid doing Ryan Reynolds' impression for 2 hours, but it doesn't get too bad. Overall, this is a good homage to 80s kids movies. It's PG-13 and pretty much aiming for that same audience of children who want something slightly more adult than The Boss Baby or whatever. It's a cool time travel story that the whole family will probably enjoy, even if they aren't blown away by it.
As Russ Duritz, the man,
I know you,
meets Russ Duritz, the kid.
Are you who I think you are?
Russell Morley Duritz.
How'd you know my name?
There's something very strange going on.
She's not gonna believe us.
She will.
She won't.
She will.
She won't.
She will.
Hey!
Told ya.
Disney's The Kid. Academy Award-winning producer Brian Grazer and acclaimed documentary filmmakers Fenton Bailey and Randy Barbado invite you to go behind the scenes
Thank God it was such a thing as sex.
of the film that was made for next to nothing, but changed everything.
It's a picture that'll never die. I mean, we'll all die, but Deep Throat won't die.
Vin Diesel is Triple X.
Shaken and stirred.
The following feature has been rated R by the Motion Picture Association of America.
Cool, a nice story for the kids. What's next? X from writer and director Ty West. It tells the story of an adult film crew in the 1970s who go to a barn to make another movie without really telling the elderly couple that owns the barn exactly what they're doing there. And when the couple sees what's going on, things get creepy and a bunch of people get murdered. Tangent, this actually came out the same week as the premiere of a show on HBO Max called Minx that I watched at around the same time, which is about a male nude magazine in the 70s. So I guess that week's release just had a theme. Anyway, the show's pretty good so far. Go watch it. Anyway, X is a tribute to the exploitation films of the decade, including the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And if that plot synopsis didn't clue you in, this has a lot of sex and violence. This probably came close to getting that X rating. And yes, I'm saying X because it's the 70s. But beneath all that blood and other fluids, it's actually a genuinely scary movie. Pretty surprising for something that advertises itself with a tongue-in-cheek moment like this.
One of the boys found this inside.
What do you think is on it?
I see one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
It's a slow burn for the first half, focusing on the character interactions, the filming, and the looming threat of the elderly couple. It has a good cast that works pretty well with each other. The old woman in particular is a very creepy villain, but also a very pitiful one. One scene that shows her while the crew sings Landslide by Stevie Nicks is more subtle than I was expecting in a movie like this, and far more emotional than I was expecting in a movie like this. But when the bodies do start to fall, yes, it's gruesome, but it also has a good amount of atmosphere and tension. I was on the edge of my seat for the entirety of this portion. This movie remembers that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is held up not just because of the shock value, but also due to being actually scary. There are a few jump scares, but they're done sparingly, and when they happen, they actually feel kinda deserved. There are still a few minor issues I have with it. Nitpicks like how that one kill on the lake seemed a little over the top and convenient. Oh, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, stay after the credits. Apparently West secretly directed a prequel alongside of this movie and has made the first look as a post-credit scene. I was lucky enough to hear that there was a scene after the credits, so I think you should too. Kinda disappointed that it wasn't Robert Pattinson from The Lighthouse wearing an eye patch coming to the survivors asking them to join the A24 horror cinematic universe. Anyway, I think that this could be interesting. There are some aspects that I could have seen more elaborated on, like the old lady's obsession with dolls, or maybe even the reveal about Maria Goth's character at the end that initially just seems kinda tacked on. Or maybe there's already some meaning to it that I'm just not getting. Either way, maybe this could be this year's Fear Street trilogy. It's already much better than those movies, which I enjoyed. Didn't they already have an X2? In conclusion, this is indeed
one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
It's a much better Texas Chainsaw Massacre film than the actual Texas Chainsaw Massacre we got this year. It doesn't quite fit into the stereotype of A24 horror, and that's what makes it interesting. Turns out they don't just make snooty art house horror films, which I love by the way. It's also a nice take on the cliche of slasher victims dying after having sex. It's one of the best serious slasher movies I've seen in years, and my favorite A24 horror film since Hereditary. Just don't watch it with your parents and or children. Speaking of porn, I'm sending nudes to the members of my Patreon. I'm lying. Or am I? Join my Patreon just in case.